Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Abroad Show here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. It is Monday, the 29th of September, 2025, and the season for everybody is over. Welcome to day one of the actual off-season. Now it's about to get sillier than what it has already. I feel like Carlton's been in silly season for a long time. It's been silly since the 8th of January. So there's that. But good to be back. Had a break last week. Got lots to get through tonight. I want to say hello to all of you who are here already. I want to go through some grand final experiences with all of you and how you watched it, what you learned from the grand final. I've got a special guest lined up. He's actually, he's in the waiting room right now. We're going to hear from him. We are going to get the Geelong perspective on things because that seems to be a very topical part of the conversation for the Carlton fans at the moment. We're going to talk about Josh Fraser. I found another little juicy tidbit that I want to share with you all. We're going to talk Cody Walker. We're going to talk trade rumors. And then at the end, we're going to get some fan cams done. And those of you who want to join in, have your say, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, hope you're all well. Who's here? Andrew, you were first. You want a YouTube channel. Keep out. Terry, have a nice break. All right, mate. Only Carlton, you are now public enemy number one for Charlie Curnow. Hello, Sandra. Hello, says Graziella. Good to see you. Julie, Malcolm, Wayne, I see you, mate. Good to see you around. Chills, Logan, hello, mate. I could take you out of your dad's will. Absolutely, mate. That's a stitch up. Lou, good to see you. Carlton Flaggers. Afrim, hello, mate. John M. Kalispera. Greeks in the house. Damien Paul, all the way from the UK, tuning in tonight or this morning for you. Matt Lang, Jess Wowdy. Hello, sir. Shearsy, Tally, you are here. Christina Bombonati, always here. So is Riser. Matt, Jimmy. All right, big lineup today. Synergy Graphics Group, Pty Ltd. Hi. I don't think I've seen you here before, but welcome. Welcome, welcome. Cameron, you're calling from Kazakhstan? Are you going to be here for the show? I'd love for you to call in. No one's ever called from Kazakhstan. TJ, good to see a bit of mongrel. Charlie's not handling it well. We're going to touch on Charlie shortly. We're going to touch on Charlie because what happens if we have to welcome him back? Who knows? It's just all 50-50. It's in the air, or maybe it's not. Who knows? All right. I'm going to bring in a guest. I'm going to bring in Paul. He's from the Hoops crew. Hello, sir.
How's things, mate?
Mate, we're good. I've actually got you. So you know how there's legs below you right now on the screen?
Oh, there are too. Yes. Hang on. Let me try and position myself. I'll sit a bit further away.
They're Charlie Curnow's legs. So I don't know. That's actually quite poetic.
Some sort of omen here.
I don't know, mate.
Thanks for having on board, though, mate. It's always a pleasure. It's been a while since we've had a chance to chat, so I'm looking forward to it.
It has. Yes. Just want to get your, it's Monday, so it's a few days post grand final. I must say, of all the things that I thought I'd see after 3/4 time, that was not one of them. How did you absorb the granny?
No, look, I'm with you. I didn't expect that in the final term. That was it was a bit of a shock. But that said, I don't know, and I know I've been keeping half an eye on the chat as we get through this. I reckon there's a few people just hoping that as a Geelong supporter that I crash out on you here. That won't be the case. As a Geelong supporter, I've been very fortunate over the years, over the last 18 to 20 years or so, where we've been in it up to our eyeballs every year. And that's both a blessing and a curse, right? You have this scenario where a premiership is always on the table, but it also means that heartbreak is right there as well. And so in a weird way, I'm kind of desensitized a little bit to it. And that sounds kind of weird and bad, but you kind of, not in the way that like a potential cellar dweller team might be, but I've kind of gotten used to the losing. Like I know that this could always be there. And so it was, and if anything, honestly, the prelim last year was actually a bit harder, and for that in that particular case, it was actually it's more of a dad thing now. Like my son's, well, he's just turned 7 in the past week, but I took him to the prelim last year, and obviously it was so close. And you know we were going to win, and then we didn't. And for him at the age of 6 at the time, that was a very actually sorry, he would have been 5 going on 6 at that point in time. That was a very upsetting experience for him, and he thought we were going to play in a grand final, and suddenly we weren't, and there was tears. And so then trying to be strong for your kid who's crying over the football then makes you a bit emotional. Whereas this time, it was almost Simpson style, you know, like when the pig's flying through, you know, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Like there was kind of that moment early in the last quarter where we both, like my son's looking, he goes, "Can we win this?" I go, "Nah, mate. It's done." Wow. And so there was a good probably 20 minutes left of the game at that point to sit there, and I mean, I would like to hope, and it didn't seem like the crowd was kind of streaming out at all during the game. It looks like most kind of sat it out to the end, whether they liked it or not. And I have a lot of respect for anyone who does that, regardless of whether it's a home and away or a grand final. And we just sat there and we watched it, and kind of between the eyes at different stages. Like it was rough to kind of see it all fall apart in the space of essentially about 35 minutes of football, really.
Was there like a particular moment? Yeah. I mean, maybe it happened a lot more clearly to me. It felt like from the way I watched it that it was just I can't really pinpoint a particular moment or passage of play where momentum turned. Like I know the Lions were up sort of late, couple of goals in the third quarter. Like maybe that was the precursor to it. But did you see it? Did you see that happening? Like, did you see a moment in time happening that was un-Geelong-like?
Oh, no. So I wouldn't say it was un-Geelong-like, but it was kind of no, we're not coming back from this. I could accept I mean, not that I loved it. It's a grand final. The stakes are as high as they could possibly be. But I could accept, okay, they've managed to get a couple goals on us late in the third. It happens in any game of football. Very rarely do you have this almost goal for goal constant thing. I mean, the scores were level at quarter time. The scores were level at halftime. The stats were basically identical. The only real discrepancy was the free kicks at halftime. And I know there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, the umpires tried to give that to us." There was also a lot of scenarios where it was Cam Rayner being pretty ill-disciplined. He gave away like 4 or 5 himself, and they weren't dodgy ones. There were probably some others that were a bit, I don't know. I haven't analysed it on that sort of level yet. And certainly in grand final day, the bias probably creeps in a little bit more than it might on any other given occasion. But for me, the moment that I knew, oh, hang on, this isn't working out, was actually at the very beginning of that final quarter when the Cats had made the move. Stanley was subbed. Blicavs was taking over the ruck, and clearly Fags and the team had learnt their lesson from what Mark Blicavs did last time around, where he won that contest, kind of palmed it to himself and ready to take off, and Cam Rayner bolted off the square and hammered him. I'm like, oh, they've worked out our way to break, like to kind of shift this momentum, and they've busted it open straight away. I'm like, oh, hang on, no, no, we're not getting this one back. This was the ace. This was the ace that we pulled to try and swing it, and it didn't work straight away. So yeah, it was gone. It was a shame. But yeah, I think it was trying to be up and about for my son was probably the thing that made it a little bit easier in the end.
Yeah, mate. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, I think on this side of the fence, the Carlton side, we would take the last 20 or so years, maybe 18 years that Geelong's had. How do you reconcile thinking at some point this is all going to eventually fall away, and then you might have to go through some pain, and then realizing now you're just still there, like most, if not all of the time?
Yeah, I guess over the years, I've had that moment where I've gone, so when is the house of cards going to topple over? And it just hasn't. Obviously, we've had, again, like I said, there's been heartbreak as recently as this past weekend, but the absolute falling off a cliff, I've expected it. And I've never been able to say this is the point that's going to happen, but there's always been it's going to happen, and it just hasn't. So I honestly, I don't know how I'll reconcile it with it if it actually occurs at this point. Maybe they have got the machine now so well oiled that this may not come about. They'll just be one of those teams that's perpetually contending. May not ever be your top, may not always be that top four, may not always be that premier, but they might always be there or thereabouts and always a threat. And I may not, for a long, long time, see my team bottom out, which is good and bad because there's probably positives to we can see it with what Hawthorn's done. They bottomed out, filled their boots, surged back up, and if they end up getting merit, could be in this one up to their eyeballs next year. Richmond is filling their boots with selections in the last year, and who knows, they might be surging back up in a couple of years' time as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how things all work out in the wash over the course of the next few years. But right now, I'm just trying to enjoy what I can while I can, because who knows, it could fall over very suddenly.
Yeah, I've got to ask mostly because I tipped it and I had a little bet on the Norm Smith, but why was Jack Martin the sub? For me, I was calling it from pre-finals. I do a show with Ari on a Wednesday night. I'm like, the Cats will beat the Lions in the qualifying final, and then the Lions will beat the Cats in the grand final. But Jack Martin will have win the Norm Smith. So, was he injured? Was he under a cloud?
Not that I'm aware of.
Wow.
I just think that the game was obviously. We didn't really come out to play. Save for probably 7 to 8 individuals, I'd say there was a lot of players that just didn't bring the intensity like they needed to, which is wild to even imagine considering we're talking about a grand final here. That, again, the stakes are no higher than this. It's crazy to me that players are off their game to that degree. They were certainly outplayed in a few cases as well. And, that happens. I'm never going to sit here and question, Paddy Dangerfield and his level of intensity and his will. He just got outplayed by Brandon Starcevich and some great coaching at the same time. But there were others that were, visibly just not as switched on as you'd like them to be. But I honestly think the game was actually won and lost at match committee. The Reece Stanley decision, he's always been a guy in my mind that he's a momentum person. He gets a few wins on the board. He's a slow build, gets a few wins on the board. And then when his confidence is sky high, suddenly he's a really good, genuine ruckman that, you'd be happy to have in your team. But when he comes in cold, he's come off an injury, whatever it happens to be, he's about the last person you want on the field. And he's coming off an injury. He hasn't played a game through the whole final series. It didn't make any sense to me that we brought him in. I've been beating the drum for 18 months now, and I was vindicated last year during the prelim, and unfortunately I've been vindicated again here with the grand final that and anyone, and I've seen a couple of my Hoops Crew viewers popping around in the chat, they've all heard me for years talking about, I've been talking about Jed Buse as being one of the most important players for us because he does the lockdown on the Charlie Camerons. And I've always spoken about Charlie Cameron. He was always the one, and look who got away from us. Zach Bailey did too. He had 9 shots on goal, but Charlie Cameron was the one that broke it open in the end. He was the one that got those 2 goals back-to-back in the third that created that wedge between the two teams. Suddenly, Lions got a bit of momentum, and they kept going from there. So, Ratio, I was just seeing in the chat there with Justice for Jed, which is a hashtag I've been working with for a while. Yeah, that was... and I feel vindicated, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, look, it was obviously a great season. You were so consistently good, the Cats, as you usually are.
Except whenever we play you guys. Go figure.
What is that? I don't quite
think there's a matchup thing. There's a matchup thing to it, and I think. Even if we win, it's not... Well, in the last few years, it hasn't been a blowout. I don't know. I think there's just a matchup thing. And Geelong has... I think there's 3 teams that we have that with, and Brisbane, unfortunately, is one of them. But also, they've probably got a matchup thing over everyone these days. GWS is the other, and then I'd say you guys, regardless of where you're at, you've got the right players in the right positions that have caused us a lot of headaches. Now, half of the reason why we're talking today is about one of those players and whether he will or won't be departing and whether he will or won't come to my club. But in the current climate, Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay, Tom De Koning, Jacob Wittering, that whole spine has caused us all sorts of issues over the years. Yeah.
That's actually a good segue because it looks like the spine is cracked. The spine is cracked. We're in for surgery. Yeah, a couple of slip discs. L12 and L30. De Koning's gone, so we don't even need to talk about De Koning anymore. But there is a big fella. His name is Charlie Curnow, and all of a sudden, over the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, Geelong seems to have just subtly found its way in this conversation. So part of the reason why I brought you on is to talk about that and just get your version of the story, because obviously from our version, we're all thinking, hang on a minute, Charlie's the talisman 1 minute, next minute he wants out. He's not happy with God knows what. What are you seeing on the Cats side of this situation?
For the most part, I still feel like, and this is where your perspective and everyone who's watching here who's a Carlton fan as well is really helpful, because like the question for me is, how did we get to this position? What is it that's got him so upset at Carlton, regardless of what club he goes to, whether it's my own, and of course I'd be thrilled if he comes to the Cats, but whether it's Gold Coast, whether it's Sydney, whether he ends up staying at Carlton, like what is it that's actually got him so frustrated and eager to leave? Because once you've got a player that's in that headspace, that's when other clubs come into the mix. And Geelong, we're very good at getting ourselves into that conversation once a player is disgruntled. And again, you can look at, there's plenty of players where it hasn't worked. I think about Clayton Oliver in the pursuit last year. Like, Bailey Smith, he's on the outs, and suddenly and again, setting aside what people will personally think of Bailey Smith, because I think he carries on like a bit of a pork chop at times too. Pretty valuable player to have on the list, but he's not. His character, yeah, I'm not as wild about that. But the club finds themselves in the position to chase these guys once there's some sort of disharmony. My question is, how did we get to this point? And that's what I don't have the greatest level of perspective on.
So, okay, I'll break this down. Carlton as a club has been dysfunctional as all hell this year, starting with from January. Like, it just starts there. From the very top, president has to be stood down and we get a new president. Obviously, things go wrong on that front. Charlie had 2 to 3 surgeries in the off season. So there's that. There have been suggestions that he doesn't get along with the coach. There have been suggestions that he doesn't get along with the game plan, and there's frustration, which I would hope there is. He was added to the leadership group this year. I actually saw something online today from somebody who went to a function with Sam Doherty and Patrick Cripps, and this person has written that Cripps was asked about Charlie at this function. He said that he thought Charlie started to fall out of love with footy a bit, going through the surgeries. So the trade talk is him thinking maybe a change of scenery might help him regain that. But Cripps said he'd be certain that the club would welcome him back if his trade fell through. So there's just disharmony and misalignment. And I think if you're talking about player with the coach, that can be mended. They're professionals, get on with it. If there's something a little bit more deeper and he's really upset at something that's gone on and he's had enough, then there's that. I don't even know what the answer to that could be. Something rotten if it's gotten to that point, because only in February he was doing articles saying that this group had to do it and they had to find a way to win the premiership and it's on them and they've got to stick together and yada, yada, which whatever, they all do. But I don't know what really has turned him off so much to the point where he wants to leave, because he's always been the one player at Carlton that seems to love the place and bring the energy to the place.
Ed for years has spent it. And both of them obviously in danger made his little comment during the Brownlow, which I did see actually your video earlier today, and like I can kind of see how there's the tongue, and obviously the little smirk appeared on his face. So there's clearly a hint of tongue-in-cheek stuff. But I'd also been hearing for a while that they actually, as he, I think he said, Geelong players are haunting, or like it's like a haunt for the cat. I can't remember the exact wording he used, but I've heard that they've been using the place for quite some time, regardless of whether Ed or Charlie are there. Anyway, I think he was very deliberate in the way he slipped it in there, and I don't know if that was. Danger's a bit of a smart ass and likes to have a bit of fun and those sorts of things. The timing wasn't ideal, I don't think.
It's perfect for the theater, like the theater of the story.
He does like a bit of theater too. So,
he does it very well. Like, you can say what you want about Dangerfield, but he's great on the field. But he also just knows how to like poke the bear without poking it. But we're all on this side,
on it, Cheshire cat grin on his face,
waiting to be offended at something, And also from my side, maybe I'm being a little bit immature here, but I'm seeing all these little jabs coming from everyone. And it's like, is anyone at Carlton going to be offended? Is anyone going to put this. I mean, you got TDK with Ross Lyon on this live stream. You've got Geelong having their jabs at Carlton. I get it. They're human beings and they've got to do what they've got to do for their lives. But the competitor in me is thinking, is this just okay with everyone? Like, yeah, take the pot shot at Carlton. Like, is that what we're about now? Like, we're just going to allow everyone to take pot shots. That's where I'm getting a little bit, I don't know, competitive.
Well, this is where I think, honing in on the actual transaction, if it even occurs, is the big part of this. Because if Carlton does want to make a statement, then they're going to have to push back. Like, if he goes, in the hypothetical he leaves, you're going to have to try and take a lot for him. You're going to have to fight for that. Yeah. Now, whether that eventuates, I don't know, but they're going to have to really drive a hard bargain. Because at the moment, you're dealing with, when it comes to TDK, you're dealing with St Kilda, who's clearly committed to going all in and throwing. People want to make their jokes about Geelong and our farms and Cotton On and all that. I don't know, like, you got to pay 95% of your salary cap every year. So I don't know how you're suddenly finding all this money for TDK, for Nasiah, for Silvani, for Liam Ryan, for potentially Sam Fland as well. Lee Kalir on top of all that. You can only back pay. What's the word I'm looking for? You can only smooth out the income so much. But anyway, I won't. But like, they're playing a really aggressive game. Geelong, when they transact with clubs, they are really aggressive and they push and they, and I think this is the opportunity for Carlton, especially if you want to send a message to your members, to your fans, to really dig the heels in. And I don't like that, because obviously I would love to get Charlie Curnow at the end of this, but trying to project what I would want if I was a supporter on your side of the fence, I would want, even if he ultimately leaves, to dig the heels in really, really hard and get something decent for him. Maybe it's, any transaction, right? One club will start here, the other club will start here, and there'll be some sort of meeting somewhere in the middle. But if you're a Carlton fan, if you're a Carlton member, you would hope that in this case, you would come away from this going, we got more out of this than Geelong did. Like, or Gold Coast or Sydney, that we flushed out. I don't know if it's Geelong, and this, I guess, we'll eventually get to the actual, what might the transaction itself look like. But, if it's Geelong, where they're saying, well, we don't want to give away an A-grade player to kind of match with it, because obviously that's been a lot of the conversation so far, then Carlton might be looking at going, okay, fine. You don't want to play ball with an A-grade player. Well, we're going to take someone from the next tier down, and we still want to hitch up for a whole bunch of first rounders as well. Keeping in mind, and they can use the fact that Jeremy Cameron, we required 3 first-round picks to get him. Now, are they the same? That there's probably a bit of conversation in there. I would personally, but again, there's maybe a bit of bias here. I would probably have Jezza just a little bit above Charlie in terms of how I rate them. But again, there might be a bit of bias in there, and I don't think the gap is enormous either way.
Especially
so there's a
conversation to
be had. Yeah, there's a conversation to be had that, at least, even if it's not trading an A grade for an A grade, that at least you're talking about 2 first rounders straight away, plus presumably something.
Yeah,
that's.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you see this little grab here from Bailey Smith's Instagram?
I did see that earlier today. So my understanding is that actually Paddy Dangerfield took his phone off him after that. Whether there's truth to that or not, whether it was all part of the theatre, I don't know. But now they're correct me. I think they're kind of business partners as well, though, right?
Yeah, they got the Barry's, the Barry
stuff.
Shout out Barry, mate. That's living Barry.
And like Nick Dacos is part of it too. Like there's heaps of people kind of involved in the whole thing. So there's one lens you can look at it through, which is, it's a mate poking fun at another mate. But at the same time, It's very public. Yeah, thanks, Pommy. I just saw that comment as well. I had a very good time making that one. Please, people, I won't sit here and plug all my stuff, but I put enough of the week video today about Catman and that very unhinged video, and I had a good time with it. And clearly Pommy did too, so thanks, mate.
So, okay, if I was asking you, like, let's just cut to the chase. Bottom line, last offer, you're the list manager for Geelong. What do you think is a fair and reasonable deal from the Geelong side to Carlton? In a potential, you're offering Carlton a deal. What are you offering?
If I'm Geelong, I'm committing to the we're not trading an A grader for an A grader thing, which maybe that puts us out of the race straight away. But I would be digging the heels in there because this is, I mean, Geelong is, again, we talk about the aggression and the approach that they've always brought. They will stick to their guns continually. And that's where I think it's important that Carlton tries to do the same in this, or flushes us for, or fleeces us for as much as possible in the event that that's not the case. So in my mind, I think actually a lot of what Geelong can potentially do in this deal hinges on what we do around Rowan Marshall. Rowan Marshall is actually the deal that has to occur first. Firstly, I think he's the most important one to us structurally, and we've spoken about the ruck and the problems that created in the grand final already. But if we're able to, if we have to give up a first round pick to St Kilda, I know our first round is picked 17 at the moment, and that's going to get pushed out with all the academies and that sort of thing. But if we have to give up our first rounder, I just don't think we have enough to play ball with you guys afterwards. So I think the Charlie Curnow one is very tightly connected to what we have to give up to get Rowan Marshall in the door. If we can give them a second and I'm just throwing names out here, but like a second round pick and a Ted Closey, for example, who's, there's quite a few players that are showing some interest in him. Sorry, clubs that are showing interest in him. He's looking for opportunity. He's going to be a great depth option for it. Like St Kilda are obviously targeting quite a few different needs at the moment, but the midfielders, they could probably still benefit from a little bit more depth around the Nasaias and Steeles and those sorts of guys they've got. Then he might be a handy option, and that maybe offsets your difference from the second. And I think we might have to go and acquire a higher round second too, by the way. Go and chase an Essendon or someone like that. I've actually got this on the whiteboard here where I've been like building out ideas this morning.
Wait. That's the final offer? Like that?
No.
Oh.
So this is all the Marshall part. Like I think we have to somehow protect the first round pick to then come to the table with that, amongst other things, for you guys. So if we can kind of force that deal with St Kilda where we manage to retain our first, then we can come to Carlton and go, okay, we've got this first. We'll bundle up next year's first. Hell, if we have to, because now 2027 is an option as well. You can trade multiple years. We can throw that in as well. Though I do feel like most clubs are going to be a little bit hesitant to take on 27 picks at the moment because of the Tasmania factor, let alone the fact that if you're Carlton trying to deal with Geelong, the presumption is that we're also going to have a pretty late first round pick and Tasmania is going to get in the mix as well. So pick 17, 18, if we were to finish, grand final territory again in 2 years from now, is still going to become pick 25, 26, something ridiculous in that first Tasmania year. So that, I feel like you're talking 2 first rounders, then you're talking about a player on top of it. And that's right now on my little whiteboard where I was jotting these ideas. I've got 20, like pick 17 or whatever it becomes. I've got the first rounder from next year, and I've got player X. I don't know what that looks like yet. And I don't know how close we get to that quote unquote A grade player we have to get. And I've seen the chat, like they've thrown out, Neil, they've thrown out Brian Myers, they've thrown out a whole bunch of other players. The Shannon Neal one, I mean, I understand that there's a like for like positionally. I think there's still a bit of a gap. Shannon Neal's also very early in his career and still developing. Brian Myers, I suspect the club wouldn't want to go near that one. Geelong in that sense, I just don't think they'd want to entertain that one. My son would also break down on me if that was the case, because he's Grind's favourite player. But Grind is his favourite player. But
can I have Grind Myers at least?
Yeah, and so this is the thing. Like how much is Geelong going to dig their heels in and go, we're just not going there? Like we've been hearing this narrative over the last few years that no one is untouchable, and I think obviously the big NBA trade of the last 12 months kind of highlighted that in a lot of professional sport there is no untouchables anymore. When Luka left and went to the Lakers, but I think Geelong still wants to approach it. They feel like everyone is gettable on theirs, from elsewhere, but then they're still going to be uncompromising, I think, to an extent on theirs. And I guess what is that fenced off section where you can't touch these players? I don't know who fits in that ballpark.
So who's the group? Who are the untouchables? Don't even think about it from Geelong. I'll let you tell me.
No, that's fine. I got asked the question in our Discord earlier today, and I felt like there was only 3 that are genuinely, like, regardless of the transaction, untouchable. This wasn't necessarily related to Charlie Curnow, but were genuinely untouchable, and I felt that was Holmes, Smith, and Jeremy Cameron.
Holmes, Smith,
and then I feel like the rest, if the price was right, you could go, and I know obviously we mentioned Grind. I don't think if Geelong are going 2 first and Grind Myers, I don't think they want to go there. But if a club was going, hey, we want Grind Myers and we'll offer you all of this, there's a context, I think, component to the whole thing.
Well, how about Grind Myers, Lawson Humphreys, Connor O'Sullivan, and a little bit of Ollie Dempsey? Gonna have 2 of those 4?
I'm projecting for Geelong here. I would imagine they're going to say no to that.
But we've got,
I know,
Charlie Curnow,
and I think at that point they'll probably go, are we like he's expressed interest. Apparently they were conversing back in May from reports. Whether there's truth to that or not, I don't know. But apparently they've been talking as far back as May about the prospect of this. But how committed are Geelong really, knowing potentially where they're at? I guess that remains to be seen, because they will. I would like to hope that they are backing in Neil, that they're going to, and obviously Jeremy Cameron is closer to the end than the beginning, but he also just kicked 88 goals this year, so he's clearly not showing too many signs of dropping off. So I don't know. Okay. I think there's also an element of how desperately do we need this guy, or are we okay with Jeremy potentially kicking another 80 plus next year and Shannon Neal continuing to develop, and then drafting someone or going and chasing someone else who's maybe not going to cost us an arm and a leg next year or the year after.
Okay.
So I'm not. Charlie's clearly, from all reports, most interested in Geelong, but I don't know if his level of interest is matched by Geelong's level of interest. They'll pursue him for what they deem to be a reasonable price, but if then they determine that it's too much, then I think they'll be more comfortable in going, okay, go to Gold Coast, go to Sydney.
Let's just say he doesn't go to Geelong. Wait, have you had a situation like this where you've had a player like this? Does this ring a bell from a Geelong perspective? I don't really remember.
That wanted to come to us and couldn't?
No, other way around, like maybe wanting to leave and you sort of made him stay. Is there anything?
Tim Kelly was that initially, because he tried 1 year and we said no, but then the following year he basically paid for Jeremy Cameron. He wanted to go home to WA. We said no. We dug our heels in, kept him, and then the following year we got a king's ransom for him. But that's honestly, like, in recent memory, since essentially this whole free agency, or the really intense build up of free agency, trade and draft, and how tightly this is connected. That's really the only one outgoing from Geelong that I can think of.
Okay,
Gary Ablett obviously left when he first.
Where do if you were guessing, how do you think this situation ends up? We get to the 15th. I think it's the 15th of October, final day of trade period. Do you think Charlie Curnow will leave Carlton from an unbiased perspective? Let's just say the asking price is too much for Geelong and you pull out. Yeah.
I think he'll still find his way to one of the other two.
Yeah.
And the other two have got more. I mean, like, Geelong is the one he seems to want most, but we're the ones that, as many have reported, are the least likely to be able to stump up what's required to get him, and probably the most reluctant also to stump up what's required to get him. Gold Coast have got plenty of good, young, talented players who've demonstrated more than enough capability to improve Carlton. They've also got plenty of genuinely high-end first-round picks as well, and that's a big difference. Gold Coast, I think, have some top 5 or 6 sort of picks, if I recall. Geelong's is pick 17 that's going to get pushed out, so that's not overly appealing either. If you're trying to compare if you're Carlton trying to choose between these things, so
yeah, right,
yeah.
So we were chatting earlier this year. We're talking about Sam Walsh. Now, this was pre his comments. This was pre his recent comments where he sort of seemed to put the flag in the ground and say, "No, I want to be at Carlton." He hasn't signed on yet. He's out of contract end of next year. Do you have something about Sam Walsh? Like, did you something that you know, or
no? So not necessarily anything I know. It was just more of a. I think when that first bubbled up, you and I kind of chatted about, do we want to discuss this thing, and kind of a feasibility thing, similar to what we're having now with Curnow. That said, there is I can't remember he was a Geelong Falcon, if I recall. So there might be that as soon as a player of that sort of quality who's tied to the Geelong region comes up, Geelong is, as I said before, Geelong is instantly going to start sniffing around and trying to poke at the seams and see what they can force out. It's the same conversation being had about Zach Butters, where Bacchus Marsh is where he was brought up. That's 40 minutes up the road. And while he might be a Dogs fan, it does seem like the Dogs might be the front runners. There's a closer pull to home if he goes to Geelong. So they're going to try and leverage that wherever they can. I think they'll do the same here with Sam Walsh. Whether it amounts to anything, I don't know. But I think he'd be a really valuable asset to us. I know obviously the question marks come up because he seems to be perpetually injured these days, or perpetually, not perpetually, but there's regularly something that's kind of hampering him somehow, or he's having to soldier on through.
Ever since he did his first back, 2020. He was sore in the back in 2022, back end of the year, and then it sort of flared up. Started 23, came home strong, won the Gary Ayres Award for the finals player, and then flared up again last year and flared up again. He had the hot spot this year as well, but he's had the constant back issues from the first time.
Yeah, so. And maybe that, for Geelong or any other potential club, maybe that goes, I don't want to, maybe it's too much of a risk, especially given that Carlton would very rightly put a high price on his head. But again, I think it's one of those ones that they'll sniff around. They will ask the question and see if they can flush something out. As honestly, in this current climate where ultimately you've got to be in it for yourself. Any self-respecting club who wants to improve their list and be a genuine contender, you're going to ask that question. And if you get shut down by the player in particular, then fine, take your business elsewhere. But they'd be foolish not to at least poke at the seams and see what comes of it.
Fair. Mate, any other last things on your mind before I let you go?
No, not really. Like I said, it's been a pleasure. It's been a long time since we've done this, and it's been good to chat. I've been keeping half an eye on the chat as well, and it seems like everyone's hopefully taking what I'm saying in good faith. I'm definitely not here trying to rile people up or anything like that. Hell, if I went down that path too much, you've got a grand final you can throw in my face. So, and I'm not looking for any more of that trauma. I've already gone through a 4-hour post-game therapy with a whole bunch of the community. So,
no, I've got to say you've done well not to poke the bear, because it can be very sensitive bringing an opposition fan in. We're very highly strung at the moment. We're like a damaged ex that's going through the breakup, but we don't know if we're going to break up because it's not in our control, and it's weird at the moment.
No, I think. I mean, I know we're just talking about me popping onto a podcast here or a live stream and talking about football, but I would love to see, and this is where I've not been as thrilled with, even though Danger is just, there's a bit of theatre and he's having a bit of fun, and Andrew Mackey said what he said on the weekend publicly, which I don't think was too on the nose. He was very much just talking business. But I would love for a few of these things from Geelong to be a little less spoken to the media. Keep it within the four walls. I try to bring just a little bit more respect. I don't think they're being openly disrespectful, but I think they could do better in terms of showing respect for the club where the player currently resides. And for me, I try to bring a similar sort of thing here, which is absolutely I want Charlie Curnow. Absolutely I want Sam Walsh. And if we could flush out some other guns from your club too, by all means, make it rain. I want my club to be the best it can possibly be. But at the same time, there's transactional components to this, and there's people and families and all that sort of thing. So, I want all, and I mean, now diving into my personal one, my mum's a Carlton supporter. I wouldn't mind seeing her team succeed a little bit, not at the expense of my own, but I wouldn't mind seeing her, her team have some success.
It would be nice.
You've always been good to me. I wouldn't mind you guys, getting up and about this community whenever I've popped on, and thankfully, again, has been the case this time. Has only ever been good to me as well. So, I want to see good people achieve good things, and or feel good about themselves. And again, not at the expense of my own, but there's a hint of selfishness there. But it'd be good to share the love around a little bit.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for coming on. I think we should, we'll definitely link up more so, because I think our clubs will be very intertwined over the next couple of weeks. Great stuff this year with the Hoops crew. It's been a great year for you guys. It's always, look, I think whether your team's doing poorly or whether it's doing well, there is a joy to providing the content for the fan base, because it is more so about capturing that essence of footy, which seems to be gone with that commercialization of the game. And so I find the community aspect of footy has found itself online right now with the communities. So yeah, you guys have clocked in another year, and may you have many more.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, like I said, thanks for having me on board, mate. It's always a pleasure, and look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. See you, mate.
No worries. See you, mate.
Yeah, that was great. That was actually really great. I need Dangerfield to shut up, though. That's what I need. I need Dangerfield's smug comments to not be there. That like that. Yeah, I'm sensitive at the moment. But that was actually really insightful. So thank you very much to Paul. All right. Got a few things I want to get through for what happened throughout the week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link to jump in the show in the chat. If anybody wants to join in and have anything on their mind, go for it. I want to play, the news of the week. So we had Josh Fraser. Actually, sorry, I've lost my train of thought because we had Paul in straight away. Grand final. I wanted to get your thoughts on grand final. What did you learn from grand final with your Carlton lens on from Saturday? What was the overriding message that you took from the game and even from the premiers? I want to set this up, right? Because this year we've spoken a lot about, the modern game and ball movement and, Carlton a little bit too focused on the contest, and, Voss is stuck in his ways and he's stubborn. So I guess my first question is, are Brisbane the modern team now that they've won, back-to-back premierships and they've been to 3 straight grand finals? Are they, I would say they're the benchmark right now, but what do Brisbane have that we and every other team really need to beat? Because, this is a 2-time premiership club right now that have got this incredible resilience about them and just strength. And yeah, no key forwards. They lost Joe Danaher. Eric Hipwood goes down as well. Obviously, Ty Gallup comes in. They play Oscar McInerney forward as well. Who's the other one? They've got like smaller guys. Logan Morris comes in. But I do want to get your thoughts on what you saw. Yeah. If the Lions started their rebuild around the same time as us and have gone back to back. Flash movie trivia. The Lions are a cut above and will dominate the next 5 years. Adrian, who I'm going to the BNF with on Sunday, by the way. Message I took was high pressure forwards and dynamic speed wins you flags. Wayne says, make a midnight raid on the Lions Academy. Interesting. Jen, you saw the brotherhood and they were looking out for each other. Gavin, you saw that if your playing group is all on board, anything is possible. Brilliant. Adrian, not key forwards. Yeah, okay, yeah, just to continue on from your point. So Adelaide have gone the key forward route. Brisbane, not so much. Wordy, you learnt that blokes who do ACLs in their first year can come back and win 2 Norm Smiths in a row. Good signs for us, Jagger Smith. Gezim, you took away that Harris Andrews said it best, and that's the culture. Wowdy, you saw that they play composed and they had genuine leaders across all lines. Rosa, contested footy is required in finals, but we need an outside running game to complement. Dionysios, mindset, belief, able to kick a ball. Yeah. Yeah, the belief, Gavin, you noticed it as well. I noticed the belief when they played Collingwood in the prelim. They were not afraid of Collingwood at all. And their crowd and their MCG advantage, none of it. Rosa, again, you need small forwards and goal-kicking mids. Yeah. Gavin, you can talk about the coach. Fagan just gets the best out of everyone at the club. Sebastian, great coach and system with tough players. Explicit Empress, they trust each other and their coach. They care about each other. Bugs Bell, the contest was a big part of Brisbane's style. They are a tough team, even with all the kids. Those fun kids help a bit too. They are all classy. Yeah. What else have we got here? Amanda. Yes. They celebrated defense. So I saw, not even on the granny, even in the prelim, and I watched their qualifying final, which they lost. They go and give high tens for spoils and smothers. Harris Andrews drives it a lot. Like, they over celebrate a spoil. It's really interesting to see. Michael, in short, the Brisbane list has picked better / quality talent via the draft and recruitment. Miles ahead of Carlton. Mate, hard to disagree. Pommy, point about key forwards is not that simple. Adelaide's problem still remains. They haven't got enough run and spread and impact inside. Hence, the Petrarca link works until pressure. Paul, you noticed that Brisbane play with a smile on their face. A lot of you are pointing out culture. A lot of you are pointing out belief, coaching. Yeah. And they're going to add Sam Draper and Oscar Allen. And, you know, maybe Kadeen Coleman will get fit and healthy. Man, it's just, yeah. Sandy, resilience and belief. Last week, Zorko gave away the first 4 goals to Collingwood through his mistakes, but said no problems, and they overcame. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay. Next item. Well, yeah, the academy helps for sure, and so does father-son. And that's a great segue. So Cody Walker. We're going to have a little break. I'm going to play you some Cody Walker highlights from the game on Saturday. This was before the grand final. I know I'm looking a little deep into the future because it's not like we're going to access Cody Walker shortly, but we're going to take a little break and we're going to watch his highlights.
Plays his footy with St. Joey's down the highway. As we'll throw this one up inside forward 50. Lovely tap down there from Van Rooyen and the clearing kick coming from Cody Walker.
Yes, and clears to the South Australian, standing at 198 centimetres. Has been playing as a defender throughout the year, aligned with Sturt.
And he's just a serious accumulator.
He's averaged 19 and a half disposals at Coates League level this year. So Matthew Owen gets the first up inside the centre circle once again. Breaking free there was Walker. Our first look at him on the wing, though. He's played in the under-18s for Vic Country this year. That one restarted. Walker was wrapped up.
So some of the stars linking up. Didn't get the purchase he was after on the kick, though. And William Jenkins just showing a bit of class on ground level, feeding that one back, though, from Tanner Armstrong. Is at a solid start. Through hand was Cody Templeton. Bit of a fumble, but they're able to mop up the mess only momentarily.
He suddenly had some vacant space. Cochrane charging out to meet it. He couldn't quite take possession. Here's Patterson. MCG bathed in sunshine here this morning. It's going to be a nice day here in Melbourne, top of 19 degrees and partly cloudy. This one's hand passed out. Hill couldn't quite take it on the up. Walker involved. He was gang tackled. We'll call for it. So again tossed up. Herbert up in the ruck. Walker lurking, socket off the ground and just missing. Wrong side of the stick.
Van Haddam, who's starting to pop up just a touch. Guy Jenkins with the inboard kick, feeding it off now to Cody Walker. He's starting to really dominate inside forward 50. Is that going to be a hold? Yes, it is. Free kick awarded to Jack Pickett.
For the Gold Coast Academy last year. Drives it long. Chapman trying to just muscle his way through. Here's Walker again.
He's quite strong in the contest.
Yeah. Recruiters have also noted his speed and agility as his key strengths to his game. Here's Jenkins.
We're still far away from the draft, of course, the next year. But inside forward 50 here for Team Boak. Is trying to rip it out. They do get the handball out eventually. Cody Walker having some kind of game, but he puts his teammate under pressure, but the ball just slips right back to him. This will be his 10th of the game. Nice work in defence. Contest to just find these little kicks. He can go left and right. He's one to watch.
And his average 18.4 disposals. Line of Nap able to take the mark. Kicks to the wing position. Walker able to take that footy. Had to backtrack. It comes back to Walker and then squares the kick nicely. 28 playing 25. Almost 14 minutes gone. Walker out of the centre. Blast it long. And McCartney.
Of Team Doherty, Tyson Bradley and the Sandy Dragons just enough finding Cody Walker. Disposal number 16. Team Doherty finally get it out of the defensive 50. It's a booming kick to the outer side and Cody Walker comes in over the top. It's going to be disposal number 17. Bit of a wobbler though towards...
Rode the bub well. Herbert with a blind turn. Ken got it back. Stolen by Walker. Walker kicks it towards this broadcast side of the ground. And the vacant Murray Herbert for company. Gordon did well. Templeton over the top. Here's Walker. Can arch the back. Onto his left. Kicks it long inside 50. Here for Team Doherty.
Finding Drever out of the Rebels. George Gale with another disposal. Just being played between the two us. Cody Walker coming up for disposal number 20. Leading all comers here at the MCG. Just over the top of the teammates' head. Finding Bradley. We've had 4 consecutive behinds from both sides combined. And here he is yet again, Cody Walker. Absolute star. We'll put him inside, but then a blink of an eye. Nearly the mark taken from Lacroix.
And now Patterson. Patterson sweeps the hand pass out for Walker. Walker breaking lines. Gets to 55. Has a ping. And he's just missed. Gee, it would have been a good goal.
Tap down from Herbert. As Robinson linking up with Hodge, but the turnover here, Cody Walker reaping the rewards. He's had a dominant performance, trying to set it up. Might just bounce all the way through, but Garrison Ken, 2 points. It's pretty much stayed at this margin throughout. As Herbert and Van Rooyen was trying to tap it back there, was Cody Walker. Garrison counter here for the Marsh 2025 AFL National Futures Games. Settling out of sight here at the G. Cody Walker, 25 disposals.
For the Futures match, as the siren sounds, it is Team Boak that run out winners.
So one of the best new YouTube channels on the scene there, Footy Stuff, does incredible work. One thing I love about his videos is he puts together not only the highlights of the draftees and the players that he has there, but also the things that they've got to work on, the clangers. So it's not just, it's not like a false dawn about the players that are coming through. So if you want to check out any draftee, we've seen a few highlights on this channel. He's got Harry Dean highlights there for Carlton people, but really anyone, any draftee that's coming through for the most part, got their highlights on there. So that's Cody Walker. Now, the other bit of news was Josh Fraser. Josh Fraser returning to Carlton. I think there was a misconception about how we lost Josh Fraser, and I went back and I watched the rest of his interview with Dylan Friends, and he was reflecting on his time at Carlton briefly, and he talks about what happened, how he got to Carlton. He'd come from Gold Coast coaching, wanted to come back to Victoria. He had no job on the horizon. He then spoke with Brendan Bolton, got the job, and then the conversation sort of kept going, and then it actually gave me a bit more insight about to him and his passion for the game, and I couldn't help but want to share it with you here tonight. So this is Josh Fraser just detailing what happened with Carlton last time around, obviously COVID affected, and what happened with his time at the Bull Ants at Preston.
And again, fortunate enough to have a conversation with Bolts and go for a job at the Blues, of which clearly you were a part of that club at that time. So at Carlton for 5 years, working as a VFL coach and in development, doing sort of each line, so backs, forwards and mids. Again, a chance to consolidate those roles, which I really enjoyed. And as you know better than anyone, mate, the club was going through a really transformational period with the list and different things. So the challenges around that were real. But for a young coach, the learnings out of that were significant. And then COVID hit, as we know. So COVID hit. I sat out a year of football, and throughout that COVID time. So again, my role at Carlton was coaching the VFL, and we had an alignment with the Preston Football Club, the Bull Ants, as you well know. So that alignment dissolved. That was part of my role became redundant. That alignment dissolved. So effectively, I was out of a job for 12 months. And during that time, having a lot of time on my hands, having built some strong relationships with people at Preston, and that was one of the things when I got to Carlton in this alignment. I didn't want to be just a Carlton person. I wanted to learn more about Preston. I wanted to get to know the people at Preston. I wanted to work closely with them. I wanted to get the whole experience. And I guess because of those relationships, we started a discussion. Could we keep the Preston Footy Club alive? Is that something that was achievable, possible? Probably the short answer at the time was no. It was going to be an uphill battle. But we thought, why not have a go at this? So a year out of footy, a year working with some incredible people, Stevie Papel, who you know well, Darren Bassett, who you know well, these guys that were attached to Preston, working closely with them. And what we did, we were able to get to a stage where we were able to bring people back into the fold. So Stephen Nick came in and helped us. A really credible administrator called Bob Tregear came in and helped us. So long story short, we were able to get the club to a position where we could go and apply for a license to come back as a standalone club. So that was a challenging period being unemployed out of the game, but in terms of a passion project and something that I became really invested in and learned a lot through, putting together strategic plans, putting together a business model, working with some of these great football people. It was an incredible experience. And then we got to the stage where we were granted a license to come back as a standalone club, of which I had to make a decision because throughout this process, there was never any guarantees. And I knew at some stage I had to get back to work, had to do something. So I started to spread my risk a little bit and interviewed for a couple of AFL jobs, interviewed for a couple of VAFA jobs, interviewed for a talent league pathway job, and sort of all coincided and came together at once where I had 3 or 4 options on the table. And I chose the Preston option, probably because of loyalty and that I'd gone through that whole process with some great people and I wanted to see it through at least for 12 months. Maybe foolishly too, because, remuneration-wise, it was a lot lower than what some of these other jobs were paying. I didn't know where Preston was going to be in 2, 3, 4 years' time. I didn't know if I'd missed an opportunity to get back into the AFL system. But what I did know was that I was so passionate about keeping the club alive and what we'd built that I wanted to take on that challenge of being part of it from the ground up. So 12 months in that chair, and then opportunity came up to interview for a head of development job at Collingwood, which I think it came through Bolt at the time.
So I highly recommend you watch the full interview, but I think the loyalty bit is the one that just piqued my interest. The fact that he stayed with the Bull Ants. Wayne, you're in the chat here. You're a massive Bull Ants man. You can probably speak to Josh Fraser and his time at the Bull Ants. But yeah, so that's a little bit more about Josh Fraser, his love for the game, and what he did at Carlton and how it all fell apart. Obviously, COVID was a big factor there. The link to that video, I've just put that in a live chat as well if you want to watch the interview. I highly recommend it. And you can get around that. What do we got here? Oh, right. Wayne, he's a great footy person. He is. I'm sure he is. I forgot to ask this question earlier. And I think this question and the answer to this question changes start of every year, end of every year. I asked Paul earlier, who are Geelong's untouchables. Do Carlton have any serious untouchables? Like genuine, bona fide, don't even pick up the phone untouchables? And if so, who are they? Because I thought Charlie was one of them in January this year. And I wanted to ask you guys when Paul was here earlier, but I completely forgot. I believe at the start of this year, we had Walsh, Wiedering, and Curnow as the absolute untouchables. Cripps, I guess, as well. Like, you don't even pick up the phone for it. Okay. Weeders. Wordy, you say Weeders. Jen, Cripps and Weeders. Cameron, you've got Jagger, Walsh, Cripps, Wiedering, and Cowan. Dionysios, Cripps, Wiedering is your untouchables. Jim, you've got Wiedering, Walsh, Harry, and Charlie. Lol. Cripps. Sebastian, it's only Cripps for you. Pommy, You've got Walsh, Wiedering, and Jagger. That's it. Okay. Michael, you think Francis Evans is the only untouchable? Rosa, you got Cripps, Wiedering, and Walsh. Wildy, you've got Jagger, Wiedering, and Walsh. Well, Cowan. Who said Cowan earlier? That's Cameron. That's an interesting one. Now I like that. Ari, Cripper is absolutely in there. What am I reading here? Come on, guys. Ari, fire up. Okay. Alex, you've got Cripps, Walsh, Lord, and Jagger. Okay. Okay. Cameron, you got Cowan as our future superstar. Okay. Jim, Charlie is handling this like a malaka. Well, that's the final bit I want to touch on, because I'm trying to think about this in the most balanced way. I'm disappointed that this is playing out the way it is, even though it's within everyone's right to explore their options and do what they've got to do to get the best out of their own career. Have we gone too far down the path of Charlie's leaving? And do we need to reserve some space for what if he stays? How do we accept that? Do we accept that? Because the discussion is fascinating. On the one hand, some days I just want him gone. I don't want to see him. I think it's petulant the way it's playing out. I think it's a bit disrespectful to the fans that really created the brand that is Charlie Curnow right now. But on the other end, I also just want to cut our losses. And I don't really care too much about winning the deal over winning the situation for Carlton and having everyone on the same page preseason round one. The idea of Charlie at preseason round one with half his brain outside of Carlton, I just don't want to repeat a 2025. So I want to get your thoughts on that. The Cesc 95. He's doing it all on purpose to get the club to turn on him so they get rid of him. Blue Bagger, you think the damage has been done with all the speculation? So, I mean, there is a genuine reality where he's back at Carlton. He's contracted. There is a genuine reality where the club hold firm and say, no, you're contracted. You're coming back. See if you can play better and get a good deal next year. And I'm just trying to play out that scenario as well. Gavin, this just shows how much of a disconnect there is with the players and the club to us supporters. The disrespect is disgusting. Yeah. Rosa, yes, we do, but he also needs to make a statement even if he stays. Yeah. Dionysios, remember what you said at the start of every year. We are there with bells and whistles. That's all we can do. Yeah. Wayne, you can keep a good grudge. They're doing what he wants unless we are getting what we want. Yeah, see, I can forgive, but I don't forget. That's just, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing. Quentin, you have to win the deal. Sorry, it's essential you make the right one. Okay. Cameron, you're going to be happy to have him back, but to be honest, the club is culling the sooks and dissenting voices has me more excited than anything else. Should have been done years ago. Okay. Jim, the fans made him. He's talented, sure, but he acts like a petulant child. Lou, you say, just tell Charlie, see you at preseason. Okay. Wildy, Dorazio needs to be held to account, that parasite. The taking of the dollar bill at Brownlow last week, that clip there, mate, that sends me. It sends me into a spiral. If it's disrespect, it's because he feels that level of disrespected. Sebastian, if we do welcome him back, he should have to knuckle up with our best to get his respect back. Otherwise, see ya. Paulette, supporters showed a lot of disrespect to players in some of the tough times. It was appalling. Yeah, you're not completely wrong at all. Yeah. I mean, look, passion spills over in all facets. Pommy, I just want to win something important. Football matches won without Charlie Football matches, one without Charlie, one with him. As long as we turn it into what we need versus the PR model nonsense, we will be fine. Yeah. Dionysios, the dollar bill. Yeah, he was like taking a fake bribe. They were having, it was a bit of a gag. It was a joke. Anyway. Also, the Geelong take on this today made me laugh. Contract the player 4 years remaining if they want him, pay up. Yeah, no money, no honey. Simple. Pommy, this winning trade nonsense is mental. You are bigger picture. If Charlie turns into the plays we need, locks in Cody 2026, and we keep TDK and the JSOS picks, couldn't care less. Interesting. Yeah. Rocco, your blood's been boiling all week. The club's a joke. Yeah, so I had this conversation with, I think it was Jad on Friday on the fan cams. And we were just talking about, like is anybody going to be offended at Carlton? And then within that, it's like, do I want a public statement from Carlton saying, we're offended or giving a jab back? Or do I want them to just shut up, cop their medicine, and then use it as fuel and win games of football next year? Obviously, I want that to happen. But I do want to see some sort of passion from our club and, I don't know, resistance. Jim, no money, no honey. Peter, if he didn't like being told to get out of his comfort zone, other clubs aren't going to let him stay in his comfort zone. Paul, things are too far gone with Charlie. We need to move him on for the best deal. Yeah. Why would you blame Carlton? This is 100% on Charlie. Carlton have said all they need to. Well, I don't think you can absolve Carlton of responsibility for the situation. If the environment was built and the culture was built with the strong foundations that it apparently was being built on, then we would have a good culture, a good environment with good standards, and a place where players didn't want to leave and were willing to take genuine pay cuts to earn elsewhere to stay. And maybe Charlie wouldn't be disgruntled. Maybe he would have bought into the culture and evolved and become more of a leader. So that's where I do blame Carlton. PR, though, Tez says, Pommy, like they want to keep options open. I'd love to hear a player say they're disappointed. That's what a winning side does. Focus should be 100% on winning, not individuals. Yeah, I mean, you could, why can't Cripps say, yeah, it'd be disappointing if he left, and in the same breath say, if he came back, we would welcome him back? It's just we seem to miss the part where we're disappointed and frustrated and competitive. I don't know. Says you're not really caring about the club speaking up. You'd rather than be concentrating on what they're paid to do, not throw verbal punches. Fair. No, that's fair enough. Andrew, he wanted out months ago and his effort on game day showed. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, guys, I just want to, if you are watching this show on your TV, where is it? Where's my QR codes at? I've got some QR codes. Top left corner, if you can scan this QR code, that's the BA survey. If you are watching and you're in the live chat, you can also click the link. It's pinned to the top of the live chat. I will be keeping this open for the next week or so, probably end of next week. I'll close the survey and then we'll draw out the winner of the prize, which will be the signed match-worn Guernsey, signed by Corey Durden on both sides. And you will also get a 1-year membership, Blue Abroad membership, that is, and a nice little package from me as well. I've got some treats in there for you. Thank you to those who have filled out the survey already. That helps a lot. A lot of the feedback that's come through has given me a lot to think about. I think especially with live events, it seems like live functions, person-to-person interaction is a big theme that's coming up. So thank you to everyone who's provided feedback, positive, negative, what works for you, what doesn't. It's going to help me go away and really think about what to do next year and moving on, and what to add and maybe what to take up. So otherwise, if there's anything else on your mind, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll leave it there. Trade period updates will come thick and fast over the coming days. Stick with us. We'll cover it all. Hope you had a great weekend, and it's about to get even more sillier. So buckle up. Have a great night, everyone, and go Blues.